What is up, guys? Hassan Malik back here again. And today we are going to be taking a look at the top 10 most useless LEGO Star Wars sets ever made. Real quick before we get into the video, I did want to remind you guys the giveaway for $100 worth of any sets on the LEGO store is still going on. So make sure to click on the card above or head over to that video, be a subscriber, and leave a comment on that video to automatically be entered. Okay, back to the video. Now, what do I mean by useless? These are pretty much all those sets that really make you remember the fact that we have not received a Phase 2 Cody since he was first introduced 15 years ago. These aren't necessarily bad sets or even overpriced, but they do make us all ask, why did LEGO put this out on store shelves, and who really asked for these? Now, a lot of the faults of these sets on this list aren't LEGO's fault. A lot of them may be caused by different reasons, which I'll go through for each entry. Also, the list won't include any mini builds, polybags, microfighters, buildable figures, or any other special line of sets. It'll only be the regular buildable sets from each wave. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into it with our number 10 spot on the list, Luke's Landspeeder from 2020. How could this set not be on this list? It is practically a meme at this point. 2020 has been a very great year for Star Wars, and with the amount of various Star Wars content we have now, whether it be the sequels, The Mandalorian, or Clone Wars Season 7, LEGO has so many different options to choose from when it comes to making new interesting sets. So when LEGO puts out another Landspeeder, even though we already got one in 2017, it really makes you remember that Phase 2 Cody I mentioned earlier. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad set, and the build is quite nice, but so was the last variant. And yeah, it's an iconic vehicle, but anyone who is still interested in buying this could have still purchased the 2017 version, which only retired fairly recently. There are so many moments and sets fans have been asking for years now, so when LEGO puts out this instead, it really felt like a huge letdown. I know the design process does start years in advance, so getting sets based on the sequels, Mandalorian and Clone Wars Season 7 may be a little unreasonable, but there are plenty of other great sets that still need to be made from the prequels and original trilogy. It also didn't help that this set was launched alongside Obi-Wan's hut, which also included the exact same Luke without the poncho and is a far better set. Plus $30 for a Landspeeder? Come on now LEGO, you can do way better than that. At number 9, we have the Imperial V-Wing from 2011. This set is a little strange since it is actually a Star Wars Legends set, which means it isn't canon to the Star Wars universe at the moment. Now, this is a little biased on my end, but I've never been the biggest fan of the V-Wing to begin with. I've just never really liked the design for it. This is definitely one of the more obscure vehicles LEGO has decided to make, and as obscure canon or Legends vehicles go, this is probably the least interesting looking one. It is literally just a regular V-Wing recolored to match the Empire. The build is nothing special and neither are the figs. I don't really like the recolored clone pilot in black. The silver astromech droid is fine, but also nothing too great. Now, it may seem like I'm being a little too harsh on this set, but you will definitely change your mind when I tell you these next two things. The last time LEGO made a TIE Interceptor was in 2006, and the last time LEGO made a TIE Bomber was all the way back in 2003. These are two very prominent Imperial vehicles that actually appeared in the movies and were quite relevant. So if LEGO really wants to give us an Imperial fighter, give us one of those. On to number 8 with the Jakku Quad Jumper from 2017. A lot of you may be asking, what is this set even based on? Well, it's based on that very brief moment when Rey and Finn are escaping from Jakku and look over to a starship that gets blown up almost immediately. In the movie, we only actually see what this thing looks like from the back. This is the vehicle equivalent of a film extra in one of the movies. So again, I have to ask LEGO, why on earth would you choose to make this? There are so many other great ships in the Star Wars universe to make. And the issue of LEGO basing their decisions off of concept art couldn't have happened here since the set was released 2 years after The Force Awakens came out. So they very well knew this vehicle was completely useless in the movie, but still went ahead and made it. And the worst part about all of this is that the build is actually quite nice, which makes it so hard to hate on this thing, because I know the designer put a lot of hard work into making this vehicle. but those efforts really should have been used elsewhere on another set. And on top of all of that, this set retailed for $50 while including no exclusive figures beside the Unkar Brute that is technically not exclusive since he is also included in a LEGO Star Wars book. So it's $50 for a set with no exclusive figs, 457 pieces, and is based on a vehicle that was in the movie for 3 seconds. That is not a good deal. At number 7, we have the Imperial Assault Carrier from 2015. Now, a lot of people would argue that all the Rebel sets are useless, but I strongly disagree with that sentiment. I actually love Rebels. It may not be as good as the Clone Wars, but it is still a fantastic show in its own right, which LEGO made some really great sets on. Unfortunately, this is not one of those sets. The vehicle itself is not that bad of a choice, but LEGO really could have went with other Imperial vehicles to base this model off of, such as the Imperial Light Cruiser or the Imperial Interdictor, which I think I might have mispronounced because it does sound a little funny. But the choice of ship is not really the issue here, it's the implementation of it. LEGO decided to combine their mini builds with this regular scaled set, and the whole thing just doesn't blend together well at all. A vehicle like this needs to be implemented at a much larger scale to be done properly. It's like if the Tantive 4 could only fit one minifigure inside the cockpit. I actually like the minifigure selection in this one, to be honest, but with the micro build TIE fighters and the build being way too small, the minifigures are the only reason to purchase this. LEGO could have made many other sets to get these figures out to fans, and this was just not one of them. There's a reason you'd always see this set on sale and completely stocked at stores. Rebels sets already struggle to hook the rest of Star Wars fans, so making this for a Rebels set probably wasn't the best decision. On to number 6 with another set from 2020, the Sith TIE Fighter. This is not just a useless set, but also one of the worst Star Wars sets LEGO has put out there. First, let's just get the only good thing about this set out of the way. The minifigures are pretty great, the TIE Fighter pilot and Finn look awesome, and Trudgeon, the exclusive Knight of Ren, looks great too. But that is probably the only good thing about this. And speaking of useless, by the way, how useless were those Knights of Ren? They were even more irrelevant than Phasma, and that's saying a lot. Now, to all of you that have seen The Rise of Skywalker, I want you to think back and try to remember these scenes and shots that have this ship in the movie. Are you having trouble? That's because this ship only appeared as background destruction filler during the final battle sequence. I think it was a little dumb to create a new Final Order version of the TIE Fighter to begin with. It really just feels like a money grab. The ship's design in the movie isn't awful or anything, but the thing is, it just isn't relevant enough to warrant a set. Just like every other set on this list, there are so many other sets they could have went with. Mainly Kylo's TIE Fighter, which plays a pretty prominent role in the film. But this is one of those sets where it's not really LEGO's fault, since they were only working with concept art and bits of information when trying to decide what sets to make. So that makes it more Disney's fault than anything. But that's not the only thing that makes this set entirely useless. The actual build here is not great. It's a very weak entry in the long list of LEGO TIE Fighters. The main pod is very small and not shaped well, and the solar panels are extremely thin and not very well built. On top of all of that, this set retails for $80, which is way too much for something like this. This is definitely one of those sets that should have never been made. At number 5, we have the Assault on Hoth Ultimate Collector's Series set from 2016. Yes, you heard me right, this is an Ultimate Collector's Series set. That's one of the major reasons it's absolutely useless. We were receiving about 2 UCS sets a year at the time. The year before that, we got the UCS Slave 1 and the UCS TIE Fighter, both fantastic sets. Then the next year they followed those up with the Death Star remake, which is a great set, I gotta admit. But also this, the Assault on Hoth, which to me barely counts even as a regular set. All the builds in this feel like miniature builds of what they're supposed to be. The shield generator, the ion cannon, the Wampa cave, and the turrets. Then they just mash them all together and slap the UCS name on it. None of those builds even feel like they match the quality of regular sets, let alone the Ultimate Collector's Series line. The Battle of Hoth is my favorite battle in all of Star Wars, so I was very excited for this set, but this is just not a good LEGO representation of it at all. LEGO has made tons of great Battle of Hoth sets over the years, so you're much better off spending your money on those. They seriously should have went with something else. This set is pointless. On to number 4 with the first version of Kylo Ren's command shuttle from 2015. Now, right off the bat, I have to mention that this is not entirely LEGO's fault. They were definitely working with concept art and probably had no idea how this vehicle was going to look or function in the film. The main issue with this set is that it can't do the only movement or function that the in-universe model has. As you know, in the movies, Kylo Ren's ship is able to open its wings when it's actually flying, making it look far more intimidating. But this LEGO set can't do that. It's like the equivalent of a LEGO X-Wing being unable to open its S-foils, or the Imperial shuttle being stuck in its landed form. So this Kylo Ren's command ship can't really turn into Kylo Ren's command ship, which is a major issue. And then on top of that, they got the color scheme completely wrong. The main window should be red, and the rest of the ship should be black. We all knew LEGO would remake this set, so there was no good reason to really purchase this at the time. Although a lot of people did end up buying it, since we didn't know what it would actually look like, since this was released before the movie. One great thing about this set is the minifigures, but the set as a whole still remains one that LEGO definitely wishes they could take back, which they pretty much did by releasing a newer, much better version with the Rise of Skywalker. Still, this set is entirely useless and completely missed the mark of what it was aiming to achieve, which again, isn't really LEGO's fault. We are now at our top 3 sets, so at number 3, we have the First Order Heavy Scout Walker from 2017. And this entry on the list is kind of like the last one, in that it's not really LEGO's fault, since they were most likely working with concept art and didn't know what would or wouldn't be in the movie. But this one is a little worse since it was actually never seen in the movie, which makes this set utterly useless. And that's a shame since it is actually one of the more unique looking vehicles in the Star Wars universe. The build isn't bad or anything, it's a pretty regular LEGO Star Wars set. The figure selection is just okay, Hux is great, but I would have liked to see some regular First Order Stormtroopers in the set. But the quality of this set doesn't really matter since this vehicle isn't really in Star Wars, which is why it's pretty useless. This thing was always on store shelves and was always on clearance, and that's understandable since there's not much reason to be interested in this set. Again, not really LEGO's fault since they were obviously working with concept art and didn't know whether it'd be included. Okay, on to number 2 with another sequel trilogy set, the First Order AT-ST from 2018. I promise I don't hate the sequels, I'm actually a huge defender of it, I do think it gets far too much hate. Anyways, back to the actual set. Now, I get what LEGO was going for. In the movie, this is actually what happens, regardless of whether you like the fight between Phasma and Finn or not, this is just how it went down. But that doesn't excuse the fact that LEGO labeled this as a First Order AT-ST, only to give you its legs, which by the way aren't articulated. In the movie, we actually see it get ripped apart when BB-8 pulls it off its dock, so including that as a feature would have been perfectly fine. But not including its head just makes this set so dumb. It literally looks like an incomplete set. Sure, it's accurate to the scene, but that doesn't make it a better LEGO set. For reference, a couple years before this, LEGO made a set that included a completely built AT-ST, which isn't much different from its First Order variant, for the exact same price. So the fact that we're now paying for literally half of that for the same price makes this set useless. Why would they even make this? Now, the minifigures are pretty much the only reason anyone would pick this one up, but even those aren't that great in my opinion. You can get Finn and Rose in their actual film outfits in a set that is much cheaper than this one that also includes BB-8, so if you really wanted them, you should go with that. And getting Phasma is awesome, but we've already gotten her before and is only very slightly different in this set. This set really should have just been a Finn vs Phasma set and not included the AT-ST legs. This set is completely useless and is such a waste of a spot in a wave of LEGO Star Wars sets. Now, before we get into our number 1 spot, let's take a look at a few honorable mentions without going into too much detail, starting with the AAT from 2015, which is way too small and needs more battle droids. The Jedi and Clone Trooper Battle Pack, which really would have been amazing if it just didn't include 2 named characters in a set people are meant to purchase a lot of. And the Republic Swamp Speeder from 2010, which is a very minor vehicle in the universe and included a very outdated looking clone trooper. Okay, that's all for the honorable mentions. So guys, the number 1 most useless LEGO Star Wars set ever made is General Grievous's Combat Speeder from 2018. There is so much wrong with this set, but let's approach this step by step. This set is actually based on a vehicle that we see in 1 episode of the Clone Wars. Yup, you heard me right, 1 episode. The story arc in the show was a pretty good one, with a lot of cool moments that happen, but this vehicle is not one of those cool things. Grievous uses this speeder for about 5 minutes at the end in a chase scene with Ahsoka and a bunch of Jedi younglings, and then this speeder is never heard from again. So my question to LEGO is, if you were going to make a set based on the Clone Wars, why would you choose an episode as unimportant as this, and then also the least interesting vehicle in that episode? I mean, the Slave 1 even makes an appearance in the episode. There were so many better vehicles to go with if it really had to be based on that episode. Sure, the build is fine, but who asked for this thing? So many missed opportunities from the Clone Wars, so receiving this set really felt like a knife in the gut to everyone who's been asking for 5s or more Mandalorians or anything else from the Clone Wars. Now, not only is this vehicle completely random, but the minifigures don't make any sense. Why is Mace Windu in this set? He wasn't even in the episode. It really should have been Ahsoka, who Grievous is actually chasing with this speeder, or Hondo, who also plays a major role in the episode. And you want to know the worst part about all of this? A Phase 2 Commander Cody is actually in the end of the episode, so getting him would have even made more sense than Mace. Don't get me wrong, I love Mace Windu and would love to see more of him in LEGO, but not like this. Remember at the beginning of the video, I said to think about the fact that LEGO hasn't made a Phase 2 Cody since his first appearance 15 years ago? Doesn't it feel even worse knowing LEGO decided to make a Clone Wars set based on this instead? And we are not done yet. The final reason this set is just so awful is that it costs $30 and only has 157 pieces. That is insanely overpriced. There is literally no good reason to purchase this set. It's completely inaccurate to what it's trying to recreate and is based on something completely useless. But there it is, guys. Those are the top 10 most useless LEGO Star Wars sets ever made. As always, these lists are just my opinions, so make sure to express your opinions down in the comments below, whether you agreed or not. Make sure to let me know what your list would look like. Also, if you haven't entered the giveaway, make sure to head over to that video and enter. And if you guys enjoyed watching this video and want to see more LEGO Star Wars content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But that is pretty much going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.